Just going to start sitting, however it's comfortable for you to sit. So if you want to sit on a block, that's going to make it more comfortable just for the first few moments. We're going to base this session on the Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga system. And like any type of yoga, really, the most important thing is to think about the breath as we move through. So really, it doesn't matter how you're sitting, just easy cross-leg, legs out in front of you. But as we talk about this breath, it's important that you sit up tall. So you can either have your hands on your knees or just interlaced in front of you. And you want to imagine that the top of your head is moving upwards towards the ceiling. And then slightly draw your gaze just down towards the ground, just in between your knees somewhere. And if you want to, you can do this first few moments with your eyes closed, or if you want to just soften your gaze down at the ground in front of you, that's okay. Turn your attention inwards and start just to be aware of your breath. So just be aware of that sensation as you inhale and that sensation as you exhale. And you're going to bring awareness to your face. Relax the face completely, so feeling the forehead nice and soft and the cheekbones relaxed and the mouth gently closed. And as you carry on inhaling and exhaling, see with the mouth closed if you can be aware of the sensation now of breathing in through the nose as you inhale. And again, breathing out through the nose. Just a couple of breaths here. Just being aware of that sensation of inhalation and that sensation of exhalation. I want you to really have that challenge of keeping your attention tuned inwards. So the mind is very easily distracted and it's easy for it to start wandering away. But as much as you can, make this a process of keeping your awareness turned inwards. And one of the techniques we use in this Ashtanga system, just to help with that, is to actually start to draw out the length of the inhalations and the length of the exhalations. So with the mouth still closed, you actually have to step in and take control of what the body just does on autopilot from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep, and carry on doing as you sleep. This breath, but drawn out, would be something like inhale, keep inhaling a bit longer, exhale, keep exhaling. So breathing in, nice and smoothly, keep breathing in. Breathing out, keep exhaling. So the challenge is to stay connected now to this slightly deeper breathing. And you'll notice if your mind does wander away somewhere, which is very easy for it to do, your breath kind of goes back to its normal autopilot. So as much as you can, seeing if you can continuously remember to inhale, keep that nice and smooth, and exhale. So just going to have a few more moments here. This is setting up the breath that will guide us through all of the physical postures we do this afternoon. So a few more breaths as you inhale, exhale. Breathing in, breathing out. And this breath eventually takes on almost an audible quality. So you can almost start to subtly hear the breath swirling in through the nostrils, down the back of the throat. And ideally, we want to try and fill the lungs full of air as we inhale. And as we exhale, completely emptying the lungs. And a technique we use just to assist with this, and if you want to just gently move your hands from wherever they are, just either side of your lower belly, maybe taking couple of fingers just below your belly button. As much as we can, we want to try and imagine this area just to remain still. So it's possible as you inhale to feel the tummy expand, and as you exhale, that sense of contraction. Ideally in this system of yoga, and there's different techniques for different yoga systems, in Ashtanga yoga, we try and just keep this area still. So have a couple of breaths where you inhale and exhale, And essentially it means keeping these muscles around your lower abdomen gently engaged, as if your tummy button was slightly drawing in. Now, it's not a kind of crunched up feeling, because you're not going to be able to maintain that. Because ideally now, this very subtle awareness to this sensation of keeping your lower belly firm is the final technique in this full deep breathing. So this area is still, face relaxed, mouth closed, long inhalations through the nose, filling the lungs full of air. You could almost start to feel your rib cage expand on the inhalations, the front, the sides, and the back, and exhaling that sense of contraction. So if you're happy enough keeping this fairly still here, don't worry if it moves a little bit. That's something to work towards. You can either keep your hands there or release them. The concept may be fairly straightforward, but the reality of maintaining this breath is actually quite challenging. So this basic, essentially, technique for meditation as we sit is a little bit more accessible. When we do come up to standing, we'll have distractions and we're moving around. It's sometimes a little bit harder to maintain this quality of this full deep breathing. So we're just going to sit here for just a few more moments. Get into that place where we're breathing full deep breaths with our attention fully on the breath. So inhaling, exhaling. Follow each inhale all the way through, keeping your attention there, and then following each exhale all the way down. And all the time sitting up nice and tall, feeling that physical sensation as your lungs expand, and that sensation as they contract and empty. So if you had your eyes closed, you can gently open up your eyes. If you had your gaze just slightly downcast, just lifting the gaze. That's the hardest part. We're going to start moving around now, but the main priority is to stay with the full deep breathing. So this Ashtanga system is a very traditional order of postures, starting with sun salutations. Then we're going to do today a nice selection of standing postures, then some seated postures, and then a relaxation at the end. Keep your awareness now on this breath. Before we do the sun salutations, we're just going to come up slowly to standing and just do a couple of stretches before we begin. So as we come up to the front of our mats, looking down at our feet that are parallel, pick up your toes off the mat. See if you can almost imagine spreading them nice and wide. It's a lot easier to physically spread your fingers, and then place your toes back down on the mat. You can imagine a nice even distribution of weight down into the ground. So it doesn't want to feel like it's all pressing into your toes or you're leaning forward too much. It doesn't want to feel like you're pushing too much back into your heels. So there's a nice even amount of weight. We're going to interlace our fingers and gently reach the arms up towards the ceiling. So as the palms go up towards the ceiling, your gaze is straight ahead. You can still feel your feet evenly pressing into the mat, and you can feel a little bit of space between your shoulders and your ears. So you don't really want your shoulders pulling up too high. So most of the time, nearly all the time in this Ashtanga system, shoulders and ears move away from each other. And as you reach the arms up and the feet evenly press down, just check you've got that nice amount of weight and you can feel your toes down on the mat and your heels. And then we're going to do a nice gentle forward bend. So you bend your knees as much as you need to. You can take hold of your elbows and just release your head down. So it's just like gravity is doing most of the weight and your head is simply hanging. And if you want to here, you can just gently move the head from side to side and backwards and forwards. Bring the awareness to your feet again, because the tendency sometimes as we fall forwards is to push back into the heels. But ideally what you want is still that nice amount of weight going into your toes. And if you do that too much, you probably will get that sensation you are about to tip forward, which is obviously what you don't want to do. So just try and find that nice place where you can balance. And just a couple of breaths here. This is a very nice therapeutic
posture. You can slightly bend the knees. And this forward bend, this is a nice introduction to a few forward bends that are coming up in the sun salutations and the standing postures, and indeed the seated postures. It's a good reminder, you can always bend your knees slightly just to take the edge off the hamstrings if you feel it there. And then inhaling, gently coming up. So you bring your feet together, and we have our hands down by our sides, and the gaze is straight ahead. So we're going to go through the first sun salutation. Now eventually, the movements of the sun salutation are coordinated with either an inhale or an exhale. So we get a little bit of a flow on. But on this very first one, we're just going to do each of the movements in turn for a few breaths, and then just talk about a couple of things as we move through the sun salutation. Just breathe as many breaths as you need to, with the gaze straight ahead. Surya Namaskara A starts with an inhale. So we take our arms out and up, and we look up towards our palms, which eventually can touch, but it's more important our arms are straight, and we feel the feet pressing into the ground and those shoulders nice and spacious, moving away from the ears. And then we take the head down. We bend the knees as much as we need to either put the hands down on the ground or the fingertips down, or you could even hold onto your ankles as you release the head. So a nice gentle forward bend, remembering you can bend the knees. Then we look up, we lift the gaze to the front of the room, roll the shoulders back, full breath. Keep the shoulders rolling back and lifting the chest. Before you place your hands as you bend your knees nice and wide, fingers spread, and simply stepping one foot back and then another. So for a moment we're in our upper plank, elbows in, and eventually you can lower down keeping your body straight, but you might need to put your knees down, elbows in, and then even your chest down. But keep pressing the hands into the ground before we inhale on the tops of the feet. So this is the upward facing dog. Try and keep the chest lifted and the shoulders rolling back. You're actually lifting the top of the legs off the ground. Don't worry if that's not happening yet. Full breath there. Knees gently down, tucking the toes back underneath, moving back into our first downward facing dog. So as you look back, your feet should be parallel and a couple of inches apart. You should feel your hands spreading nice and wide into the mat, and then you're imagining moving your chest towards your feet, the top of the head coming down towards the mat, and your heels over a period of time getting closer to the ground. And we stay here now for 5 of these full deep breaths. Now this can be a little bit challenging to eventually build up to holding a few of these. So at any point you can bend the knees if you need to, or if you become a bit tired, you could even come down onto your knees, but keeping the arms nice and active. So it's downward facing dog for 5 full deep breaths. That would mean every inhalation followed by a long exhalation, and that would now be about 5. Inhaling, looking up, taking a couple of steps, whatever it takes, to get your feet to the front of the mat. Now your fingers might come up, that's fine, feet together, but we look to the front of the mat, keep lifting the shoulders, roll the shoulders back, lift the chest, and then finishing the same way as we started. We can bend the knees if we need to gently release the head down. And then inhale, reaching the arms up, keeping the shoulders away from the ears, palms eventually move together, gazing up, and then exhale, hands to side. So that's a Surya Namaskara A. But apart from the downward facing dog, which is for 5 breaths, each of those movements now is either an inhale or an exhale. So the idea is to build up a little bit of heat. So we're going to do a few more, so keep breathing full deep breaths. If you end up taking a few extra breaths, that's no problem, but just try and keep your awareness on the breath. As we inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, folding down, release the head. Inhale, lift the gaze, stay low, roll the shoulders back. Remember, bend the knees, plant the hands down nice and wide, stepping one foot back and then the other, and keep exhaling as you lower down. Eventually you can hover off the ground. If you need to put your knees down or your chest down, that's fine. But as you inhale on the tops of the feet, try and press the hands into the ground and get those shoulders rolling back as you lift the chest, either looking forwards or eventually up, and then knees down if you need to, pushing back into your downward facing dog. And we stay here for 5 steady breaths. So keep the fingers spread nice and wide into the mat. Keep the feet parallel. Imagine your hips are going up and back, and you're moving your chest towards your feet. Maybe move your feet in just a bit more. That's it, good. A few more breaths here is 4. So that's that way, that's it, good. And one more steady breath is 5. Inhale, look up. Keep inhaling as you walk the feet towards the hands. Now, as the feet come together, there's a good chance your hands are going to start coming up, but keep as low as you can with a straight back look up. Exhale, tummy in as you fold down. Bend the knees as much as you need to over a period of time. Eventually, you can do this with straighter legs. And then inhale, reaching the arms up, full breath, gazing up to your palms. Exhale, hands to side. Just a couple more then. Inhale, reaching the arms up, full breath. Exhale as you fall down, releasing the head down. Hands either coming down onto the ground or hold your ankles or tips of the fingers down. Inhale, trying to stay as low as you can, but lift the gaze, look up, straight back. And then exhale, bending the knees, stepping, or eventually a little jump back with the feet, elbows in as you lower down, trying to keep your body nice and strong. Inhale on the tops of the feet, upward facing dog, lift the chest, roll the shoulders back, and then exhale, pushing back to your downward facing dog. Imagine someone is behind you with a belt around the top of your thighs, sort of drawing you back and up. So you're trying to keep your legs nice and active. Imagine moving your chest towards your feet, feeling your fingers spread nice and wide into the mat. Imagine your shoulders rolling away from the ears, so there's a nice amount of space there. Keep breathing full, steady breaths. And that's already 4. And 5. Inhale, head up. Keep looking forwards as you inhale. See eventually a little jump or walk or one foot at a time, getting your feet to the front of the mat and together look up. Exhale, gently releasing the head down towards the feet. Inhale, pressing the feet which are now together into the ground as you reach the arms straight up towards the ceiling and look up. And then exhale, hands to side. Good, we're going to just do one more. Keep breathing. Inhale, reaching the arms up, full breath. Exhale, gently folding down, releasing the head. Inhale, lift the gaze, look up, straight back, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, plant the hands down first to eventually jump or simply step the feet back. But try now and keep your body strong as you lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog, lift the chest, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, pressing back, downward facing dog. 5 steady breaths. Find that steadiness to the breath as you inhale fully and exhale. Keep the legs strong. That's it, and keep these muscles working. Does that feel okay there? Don't overdo that, good. You can come down onto your knees if you need to, that's great. 4. And 5. Inhale, head up. Keep looking forwards as you walk or step the feet to the front of the mat, feet together. Lift the gaze, look up. Exhale, gently folding the head down, release down towards the feet. Inhale, pressing the legs down into the ground, reaching the arms up, and then exhaling, hands to side. Good, so that's Surya Namaskara A. The B sun salutation is a little bit longer and it's got a few extra twists and turns. So we'll do a similar version to the first A sun salutation, moving through this B sun salutation a little bit slower and going over any of the extra movements. The main difference is, and we'll have a go at doing this together, that the starting position is bending the knees. So sink down with your knees bent and again reach the arms up. Now it's a little bit more challenging to get the arms straight up towards the ceiling, so it might be your arms are slightly in front. But look up, eventually moving the palms together, shoulders away from the ears. And then it's the same as you exhale, fold forward. So eventually straightening the legs, but you can still keep the knees bent a little bit as you fold forwards. And the next few movements are the same. Inhale, look up, straight arms, straight back. Exhale, bending the knees. Plant the hands down to jump or step the feet back, elbows in, trying to keep the body nice and strong as you lower down, even if you're coming down onto your chest. Inhale, upward facing dog, lift the gaze. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now it changes. As you look back, turn your left heel in a couple of degrees. You want to see if you can keep that back foot flat on the mat. And inhale this right foot. Now eventually this right foot coming all the way through to where your hands were, even if you maybe initially need to give a little bit of a helping hand underneath that right knee. Getting your balance initially, just having your hands behind your knee and that back leg straight, but eventually you would inhale your arms up. So this is Virabhadrasana Warrior, and gaze up. And again, straight arms, palms can eventually move together. Exhaling your hands either side of that right foot, fingers are spread, that foot steps back, elbows in as you go down. Inhale, upward facing dog, lift the gaze, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, downward facing dog. So the other side will mean your right heel turns in. You're ideally trying to keep that back foot flat on the ground. If you need to give this left foot, maybe a helping hand, eventually to where your hands were. Balancing, just hands on the knees might be a good starting point. If you've got good enough balance, reaching your arms up. And that will be on the inhale, look up. Exhaling, hands either side of left foot. Press into the ground as you lower down. Inhale, elbows in, lift the chest, roll the shoulders back, upward facing dog. And then exhale into our downward facing dog for 5 breaths. Now this is going to feel a bit more challenging because of the extra movements of that B sun salutation. So you're going to take it nice and steady here, remembering you can bend the knees if you need to. You can even come down onto your knees, but try and make the priority of the breath. So keep your attention there on the inhale and the exhale. Try and keep that breath nice and drawn out and nice and smooth. A couple more breaths here as 4. And 5. Inhale, head up. So as before, walking or stepping the feet to the front of your mat. Feet together, stay low and look forwards. Exhale, tummy in, releasing the head down towards the feet. And the last movement, the same as the first movement. So you sink down now, bending the knees, reach the arms out and back round. Eventually palms touch, arms straight up, keep looking up. And then exhale, straight legs, hands to side. So the challenge is, apart from when you hold your downward facing dog in the B sun salutation, each of those movements keeps going with a breath, either an inhale or an exhale per movement. So let's have a go at doing one more of those together. If you end up taking a few extra breaths, that's no problem. Just keep breathing. Last one. Sinking down. Inhale, reach the arms up. Full breath in. Exhale, hips up, head down. Keep the knees bent if you need to. Forward bend. Inhale, look up, straight arms, straight back. Exhale, jumping or stepping the feet back, elbows in as you lower down. Inhale on the tops of the feet, upward facing dog. Exhale, back to downward facing dog, left heel turns in. Inhale, right foot comes through. Now you need to keep inhaling as you sink down and eventually reach the arms up, and that back left foot should be flat on the floor. And then exhale, hands either side of right foot goes back, elbows in as you go down. Inhale on the tops of the feet, upward facing dog, lift the gaze. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right heel turns in. Left foot steps through with an inhale, eventually pretty much to where the hands were. Just get that foot as far through as you can as you keep inhaling, reaching the arms up, back leg nice and strong. Exhale, hands either side of left foot goes back, elbows in as you go down. Inhale, upward facing dog, lift the gaze. Exhale, moving back into your downward facing dog for 5 breaths. So this is going to feel a little bit more challenging. If you need to bend the knees or back off, you can. That's 1 breath. Keep moving your chest towards your feet. 2. Find that steady quality to the breath. 3. Keep the legs nice and strong. 4. 1 more. Full deep breath. 5. Inhale, look up. Keep inhaling if you can as you walk or step or eventually little jump, feet to the front of the mat, stay low, look up, lift the gaze. Exhale, tummy in as you gently fall down. And remembering the last movement as we sink down, bend the knees, inhale, reach the arms up, look up, and then exhale, straight legs, hands to side. Good. So those sun salutations just give us a nice range of movements and warm up the body, ready for the standing sequence. So we're going to do a selection of standing postures. And between each of the sun salutations and between each of the standing postures, we come back to the front of our mat, feet together, hands down by our side. So the first posture is a forward bend. So as we did at the beginning, we separate our feet just a couple of inches apart. Spread the toes down into the mat, hands on the waist, inhale, lift the gaze, look up. And then tummy in, bend the knees as much as you need to eventually reach down to hold your big toes with 2 fingers, palms face in. Now, if this feels too far to go, you can always hold your ankles or your shins. Before we inhale, lift the chest. So this nice preliminary lift of the chest, rolling the shoulders back, is what we want to see if we can maintain as we fall down into Padangusthasana. So exhaling now for 5 steady breaths into this forward standing bend. So that's 1 breath. Keep thinking about the hips drifting upwards towards the ceiling as the head hangs down. 2. Remember, we need that nice amount of weight over the feet, so be careful you're not pushing too much back into your heels, but you've got that weight over your toes. 3. And as the head hangs completely free, try and imagine the shoulders creating a little bit of space, almost lifting upwards towards the ceiling. 4. Find that nice steadiness to the breath. One more full deep breath is 5. Inhale, look up, straight back. Pausing there, bend the knees if you need to. Stay half folded to take your hands onto your waist. And then inhale the rest of the way up. And then bring the feet back together, hands by side. We use the width of our mat to step out to the right for Trikonasana. So inhale, stepping out to the right. So your feet are parallel and we're facing this side wall. Give the arms a nice stretch out to shoulder height. Your heels are in a line, so you turn your right foot to the back wall and turn your left foot in just a couple of degrees. As much as you can, you want to stay facing this side wall. So resisting the temptation to start facing the back of the room, keep your body facing this side. So you're thinking more about just reaching this right hand out and down. And as this right hand goes down and you keep your right hip tucked underneath and this left hip almost slightly lifting back, you're going to reach your left hand up towards the ceiling. Now you can go down for your big toe, but that's a fair stretch. Your ankle or shin might be more appropriate to reach up and have a straight line between the arms, gazing up to your left thumb as your palm faces the same way you're turning to. And you keep drawing back that left shoulder and finding that nice steady breath. So Trikonasana, both legs are nice and active. Feel that back left foot pushing into the mat. Feel that left shoulder almost drawing back as you take your gaze upwards. One more full deep breath here before we inhale, come up. So with the arms extended and the feet turning to do the left side of the posture. So turning on your heels, left foot to the front, right foot turns in, right hip draws back. You need to resist the temptation. We're not facing the front of the room, but facing this side wall. So you're reaching your left hand out and down. And as that left hand goes down, lift that right hand up. So you imagine space between the shoulders as you gaze up towards your right hand. And this left hand, wherever feels comfortable, that might eventually be the big toe or your left shin or your ankle. But either way, try and keep lifting the chest, drawing that right shoulder back and plenty of weight pressing back into that right foot and find that steady breath again. So one more full deep breath here. Before we inhale, come up to the side. So feet parallel, give the arms a nice stretch out, and then exhaling, turning, bringing the feet together at the front of the mat, hands down by our sides. So again, we use the width of our mat for Parsvakonasana. So a little bit further to step out to the right. So you want an extra foot between your feet, so nice and wide. Or you can imagine a triangle with one of the lengths of your legs between your parallel feet. Arms extended. Now we're about to move into Parsvakonasana, but before we do that, we're going to actually turn to our warrior B on this side. So turning on our heels, again the right foot turns towards the back, and that left foot turns in. Look down the length of your left leg. That little toe side of that left foot wants to stay pressing down into the ground, and that leg is nice and strong. And you're going to sink down, still facing the side with your arms out stretched, drawing that right knee eventually directly over your heel to a 90-degree angle. So you can glance down, make sure that knee isn't skewing off to the side, and try and get a sense that your right hip is almost sort of underneath. It doesn't want to be pushing out to the side. So you're in one side parallel line, arms extended, looking out to the side of your mat. So you want to feel the thighs almost rolling away from each other, and then from Virabhadrasana, we're moving into Parsvakonasana side stretch posture. So keeping this left arm straight for now, you're going to sink down. To put your right elbow just short of your right knee, this right hand can come on the ground, but only if you can get it flat down on a block or on the ground. So here is a good starting point. And then lift this back arm straight up, and the palm turns to the side. And if you wish to go further than where it was in the triangle, the palm starts to turn to the back of the room and starts to come over. You're almost turning underneath that straight left arm. And eventually with this hand down here, avoid this left hand going off to the side, and it comes over in a straight line. Good. And that back leg is nice and active as you sink down and keep drawing your left shoulder back. Good. A couple more breaths.
Keep that back leg active. Can you feel the little toe side of your left foot down on the mat? Keeping that right hip sort of almost underneath. That's a good. And after 5 breaths, inhale, coming up. Now, just before we do the left side, we're going to stay in this halfway position with your feet parallel and your arms extended out to do Prasarita Padottanasana, which is a forward bend, but with our feet spread out. So exhaling your hands onto your waist. You're going to feel most likely this more on the insides of the legs. So inhale, lift the chest. And as you exhale, fall down, taking the hands down towards the feet. So similar to the first forward bend we did, eventually picking up the big toes with 2 fingers. If that's too far to go, ankles or shins will do. Bend your knees if you feel you need to. Inhale, lift the chest, look up. And again, this lift that we prepare, then we maintain this sense of lift with the shoulders rolling back as we exhale down into the posture for 5 steady breaths. So keep the legs nice and active. Wants to feel like the hips again are energized upwards and the head is hanging down. So completely release your head down. And again, that nice even amount of weight over your feet so you're not pushing too much back into your heels. Good. A few more breaths. Is 4. And 5. Inhale, look up, straight arms straight back. Exhale, taking your hands to your waist. So inhale, slowly coming up. Exhale there. So inhale, stretching the arms out, just glancing down, making sure your feet are parallel and they're still nice and wide as before. Left foot turns towards the front of the room. Right foot turns in. That back leg is nice and energized. Looking down at the little toe side of that right foot, pushing into the mat, so it doesn't want to be lifting off to energize the inside of that back right leg. Glancing down to make sure the left knee is tracked down, even if you're not quite to 90 degrees. Start working that knee over your heel. Try and keep your left kind of hip tucked underneath so it's not pushing out. And then we're still looking to the side with the arms extended. So this, for a couple of breaths, is Virabhadrasana B on the left side. And this alignment of the legs is where we stay then as we exhale down into Parsvakonasana, side stretch posture. So left elbow just short of that left knee, or eventually this left hand down on the ground. And then keeping that right arm straight, inhaling the arm straight up. So it passes that point where you're at the triangle before with the palm facing to the side. If you want to go further, palm turns towards the front of the room and that straight arm comes over and you're almost turning your chest underneath that straight arm. Keep gazing to your right fingertips. Good. Keep sinking down a bit over that left knee so you feel that nice support. Plenty of weight pressing back into the outer edge of that back right foot. Good. Couple more breaths. And even here, find that steady quality to the breath. Check you can freely inhale and exhale. On the next inhale coming up, feet parallel, give the arms a nice stretch out and facing the side. And then exhaling, feet together, facing the front, taking hands down by our sides. So for this next posture, we eventually take our hands behind our backs in what we call reverse prayer position. Now, if you're working towards this, a nice starting point is to hold your elbows behind your back. If you can easily do that, then you might think about sliding along to hold the wrists, and eventually the little fingers touch. And from your shoulders, feeling like they're maybe rolling forwards, inhale here and roll your shoulders back and lift the chest, and that might help move your hands together. Now, wherever you get to, you're going to step out to the right, but continue turning as you step to the right to face the back of the room. So as we face the back of the room towards the back of our mats, we want to check our right foot is facing the back wall and our left foot is slightly turned in, and you want a little bit of a space now between your heels. This helps get this right hip moving back, left hip forward. So it wants to feel like you're completely square up to the back of the room. Nice inhale here, lifts the chest, rolls the shoulders back, and we're about to forward bend over the length of our right leg. You've got the option of softening that knee. My advice would be don't overly bend it. So inhale, lift the chest, and then tummy in, exhale. So you might even just be getting to here, and if you wish to go further, then it's more thinking about your chest going over the length of that right leg as opposed to trying to put your head down towards your knee. So imagine your head sort of moving towards your right foot, and that's not a bad place to be gazing, with plenty of weight pressing back into that back left foot. Good. You might maybe have your foot literally where my foot is. It's going to be a bit easy. That's it, better. That's good. So your right hip moving back, left hip forward, so you're square to the back of your mat. A few more breaths here. This is Parsvakonasana, side stretch posture. Plenty of weight in that back left foot so you don't feel like you're toppling too much weight forward. before we inhale, come up. Now as you come up, keeping your hands where they are, you're going to turn on your heels, but most likely as the left foot faces the front, you're going to have to pick up that back foot and slightly take it out to get that sort of imaginary line between your heels to really help get this left hip back and right hip forward. So it feels like you're completely facing the front of the room. Inhale, lift the chest, roll the shoulders back, and then tummy in, exhaling. Bend that left knee a little bit if you need to. Imagine your chest going out and then let the head follow. So again, not a bad place to be looking is to your left foot with plenty of weight pressing back into that back right foot. Keep breathing. And wherever you are with your hands behind your back, keep those elbows gently moving towards each other. And then, inhaling, we come up to the side, feet parallel, give the arms a stretch out. And then exhaling, coming to the front. So feet together, hands down by our side. We're going to have a go doing some balance postures. This is Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. So as you're facing me, you're going to take your left hand and put it on your waist. And you're going to bend your right knee and lift your right foot off the ground. Now your options initially are just to pick up underneath that right knee and stand up nice and tall. If you wish to go a little bit further, reaching your right hand down on the inside, see if you can get hold of the big toe with 2 fingers. That might be enough. If you wish to go further, maintaining the balance, then the challenge is to start straightening out this right leg in front of you. So it's going to be anywhere from here back to here for 5 full deep breaths. That's already 2. That left leg is nice and strong. Imagine the head going up towards the ceiling. 3. Keep breathing wherever you are. Even if you need to bend the knee slightly, that's fine. 4. And 5. And wherever you are, that leg starts to go out to the right. Now, it might be that you need to revert to picking up underneath the knee or bending the knee a little bit more with holding onto the big toe. Eventually, that leg is straight and either gazing straight ahead. It's appropriate eventually now to look over your left shoulder away from your leg, but that is a little bit more challenging to balance. So a couple more breaths is 4 and 5. And then wherever you are, inhaling to center. Now we release our right hand onto our waist and gently squeeze in without leaning back. Lean into it, tummy in, and see if you can get that right foot a little bit off the floor. So you may be down here, that knee may be bent, but working it up. A few more breaths. There's 2, strong left leg, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, release. Keeping your right hand on your waist, transfer that weight down to your right leg, bending your left knee. Get your bearings here, and it might be enough just to pick up underneath that left knee to get yourself going. Eventually reaching your 2 fingers down for your big toe. Even standing here, something to work towards, and then finally stretching out that left leg in front of you. Gaze straight ahead, wherever you are, keep breathing. 3, strong right leg. 4, 5. And it might just be a couple of degrees, and you might have to bend that knee a bit as that leg goes out to the left, looking over your right shoulder. It's already 2 breaths, and 3, and 4, and 5 as you come back to center, and then release your left hand to your waist. So both hands squeezing into the waist, but try and lift that left leg up without leaning back. Lean into it a little bit. Strong right leg is already 2. Keep lifting that left foot, point the toes. 3, 4, and 5. Good, exhaling, releasing. Feet together, hands by side. The last 3 standing postures we're doing are based on the movements of that sun salutation. So in 3 places, we're going to stop for 5 breaths. So the very first place we stop is the very first movement, and it's called Utkatasana. So bending the knees, sinking down, reaching the arms up, 5 breaths, Utkatasana. So keep sinking down as you reach up is 1. Keep your shoulders down away from your ears. 2, try and feel your heels pressing down back behind you. 3, keep looking up as you sink down. 4, good, 1 more, full deep breath is 5. Exhale, moving through as if we were just folding forwards, this sun salutation, releasing the head down. Inhale, look up, straight arms, straight back. Exhale, jumping or stepping the feet back, elbows in as you lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog.
Remembering we turn that left heel in and we step this right foot through into Virabhadrasana Warrior. So you've got a few extra breaths just to really get that right foot far through and feel comfortably aligned to the front of the room, to press back into that straight back left leg and reach the arms straight up towards the ceiling. More important again to have straight arms, then work the palms together, shoulders away from the ears is already 2 breaths. Same as the previous posture, keep sinking down as you reach up. 3, try and imagine your right hip moving back, left hip moving forwards. Let's see if you can get that back foot down on the mat. That's good, good, good. 4, 5. Exhaling hands either side of right foot. Push into the ground to get that right foot moving back. Elbows in as you go down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Lift the gaze, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right heel turns in, other side. Left foot steps through. Just take a few extra moments here to really try and get that left foot as far through as you can to sink down. Now to align yourself square to the front of the room on this side, left hip back, right hip forwards, but push back into that back right leg as you keep reaching the arms up. There's already 2 breaths, good. Keep sinking down as you reach up. 3, 4, 5. Exhale, hands either side of left foot. Push into the ground. Left foot steps back. Elbows in as you lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. That was our last standing posture, so we're coming through to sitting now. So from your downward facing dog, inhale, look up. Start walking your feet towards your hands. Imagine your hips going up, but you actually want to press into your hands to eventually start crossing your ankles and come down to sitting. And as you sit down, your knees come through and you straighten out your legs. So the first seated posture as we sit down is about to be a forward bend. However it's comfortable for you to sit. So if you want to sit on a block, that's going to make it more comfortable. But it's good practice to keep your legs energized. So it doesn't want to feel like your feet just flop open. So keep those muscles working above kneecaps and thighs. It's almost like your knees are gently pushing down into the ground. Keep your toes up towards the ceiling, spread the toes. Imagine your feet are almost flat on the wall in front of you. So the tendency might be for your feet to turn in, push those big toes away, little toes towards you. Hands straight down by your side. Spread the fingers just like you did in the downward facing dog. So your index finger, middle finger sort of facing pretty much forward. Lift the chest and then gently take the head down a couple of degrees. So you're looking down at somewhere between your knees and your feet. So you're sitting up nice and tall. If you imagine a mirror to your side and you looked across, you want that 90-degree angle. So straight legs, straight back. And to get that straight back, keep that sense of lifting the chest. Almost feel like the shoulders are rolling down your back, sitting up tall. A couple of breaths here. Now this is the first seated posture, and it's a really good chance to reconnect to the breath. With the face relaxed still, keep your awareness on every single inhalation and exhalation. Almost hear that breath as you inhale through the nose, fill the lungs full of air, exhale. So this prepares us for our forward bend, Paschimottanasana. Inhale, looking up. So we're going to have a nice stretch up as we reach the arms up towards the ceiling. Palms don't need to touch, just straight arms looking up, taking the arms out. So eventually reaching for our big toes with 2 fingers. That feels too far to go, then ankles or shins is much better because it doesn't want to feel like you're fighting for a posture. Wherever you get to, inhale, lift the chest. Now again, as we did on the standing forward bend, this lift, as you lift the chest and roll the shoulders back, is what you want to maintain. So even if you're just coming down a couple of degrees into the posture, better to be here than just collapsing the head down towards the knees. So try and maintain the sense of lift in this forward bend as you exhale, not really the head, but almost the chest coming down towards over the length of the legs. And wherever you get to, not a bad place to see if you can keep energetically looking forwards. It wants to feel like your shoulders are nice and relaxed, almost moving again down your back. So it wants to feel nice and spacious here. And then you need to find that steadiness to the breath. This posture, Paschimottanasana, literally means stretching out the back of the body. So if you're feeling it too much on your hamstrings, you might want to back off. You could slightly soften the knees. Whatever feels appropriate. Use the breath to guide you as to how far to go in each of these postures. A couple more breaths here in Paschimottanasana. So we inhale, come up. And often these postures are done in groups or pairs. So having stretched out the back of the body,
we stretch out the front of the body in Purvottanasana. So we take our hands just a few inches behind us, with the fingers spread nice and wide and facing forwards. You're about to press into the ground. So even though this is stretching out the front of the body, it's a little bit of a strength posture. You've got the option eventually of keeping your legs together and your feet start going down towards the ground. If you feel enough control, you take your head all the way back. It might be a little bit more stable to move your feet further apart, and you have got the option of bending your knees. But the full posture as you would lift up, hips up towards the ceiling, would be something like this. But you might have your head here if you prefer, and you might, if you're struggling to get up, be doing something more like that. So let's have a go lifting up. Inhale, hips up either way. Try and energize the legs. Imagine those big toes coming down towards the ground. That's 1, good. If you feel okay, then roll the shoulders back, gaze behind, 2. Keep imagining those big toes, good, coming down towards the ground. 3, 4, 5, and exhale down. And what makes this type of yoga fairly unique, this Ashtanga vinyasa yoga, is the vinyasas we now do, which mostly apply to postures on the ground. It's linking these seated postures by doing a brief series of movements, which essentially involves an upward facing dog and a downward facing dog just for a breath, and then coming back through to the next posture. The challenge is from sitting to get your feet behind you. When you do the sun salutations, from standing, you're stepping or jumping back. It's a little bit easier. So in terms of preparing for that, we cross our ankles. We can all have a go at doing this. Just initially reaching your hands round to draw your knees in as far as you can. You want to stay in this nice curled up shape. And then as you release your hands, try and keep your feet here so they don't just sort of spring apart. So knees into chest, sit into it, and then placing your hands down by your sides or maybe slightly in front, spread the fingers, so resisting the temptation to come onto your fingertips, palms have got to be down. And remembering our breathing, an inhale, keep inhaling, lasts for at least a couple of seconds. That's the amount of time you want to simply push down into the ground. And we talked about an awareness to your tummy almost moving in, but it's almost lifting up now. So even though externally it seems a lot of it comes from strength of the shoulders, a lot of it is actually internal. So as you, and let's have a go together, inhale, push, get your hips up, exhale down. Now it might be nothing much is happening, or eventually you can draw in more and get your hips and your feet up. You want this sense of sort of tipping forward, so you're pulling your feet backwards. But that doesn't happen overnight, but you're going to keep practicing the lifts, and if you practice the lifts, working towards that, then now what you need to do is simply get your feet back however you can. So that might be knees out to the side, hands in front. It might be just going out to the side. Ideally, if you can somehow get them underneath, even if you have to put your hands slightly forward on your knees, stepping back. But let's have a go at stepping back. And whatever it takes for you to step back into your plank, elbows in as you lower down. Now you've done this at least a dozen times. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale just for a breath to our downward facing dog, and then coming through to sitting. So inhale, head up, a little bit of weight into the hands, crossing ankles, you're coming back through. Good practice to keep coming through to sitting, straight legs, hands down by our side. Ready for Marichyasana C, which is a twisting posture. So right side first as you face me. Now this time this right knee comes up towards the ceiling and this right foot comes in, but it's facing forwards. Eventually you can bring this heel all the way in until this foot is all the way in and your leg is folded. But if you need a bit of space under here and that feels more comfortable, that's okay. This right foot wants to feel like it's pushing down. You want a little bit of space between your right foot and your left leg, but parallel. This left leg is engaged. You can, as you face me, just initially reach your left hand around the knee and give yourselves a hug. And then we're going to inhale and carry on turning to your right. So as you turn to the right, this way around, that's it, then you are going to either keep this left hand here with this right hand now behind you, or if you want to go a bit further, you can reach your left elbow on the outside of that right knee and palm faces the way you're turning. So you just get a little bit more sort of sense of pushing into this to sit up nice and tall and turn to start working this right shoulder back. Now you don't want this hand too far back, you don't want to slump down. It wants to feel like you're sitting up almost. It feels like your left ribs are sort of coming past your right thigh. So keep that left leg active because you're now not looking at it as you turn to the back. 5 breaths. Imagine your head is lifting up towards the ceiling. Use those inhales. Your spine is lengthening upwards And then as you exhale, you could get a sense of accessing that twist because the vertebrae are moving away from each other, and then that's a little bit easier for them just to get that turning motion. One more full deep breath here before releasing. So inhale, face the front. Exhale, remember we can just do a little lift between sides, so crossing ankles, knees into chest, hands straight down. Inhale, push. Exhale. And then as we face the front, right leg is straight, left knee bends, a little bit of space between that left foot and your right leg. If anything, you'll want your knee drifting in. It doesn't want to feel like it's going outwards. So that's going to help. Just reach your right hand initially around that knee and draw it in. Left hand not too far behind. Right elbow eventually on the outside of that left knee, just below. Inhale, lift the chest. Not too much weight into that left hand, and it doesn't want to be too far behind you. And as you're looking away from that right foot now, try and keep it active. So inhale, imagine the head going upwards, and then exhale, turning. So your gaze is starting to turn towards the back of the room. Keep that breath nice and full. Remember, those inhales want that sense of lengthening. And the exhales getting that nice sense of twist. A couple more breaths. It's 4 and 5. Good. Inhale, facing the front. So these vinyasas can become a little bit more challenging, but if you're up for doing a couple more this afternoon, then knees into chest, hands down. Inhale, push. That will eventually start tipping you forward to pull your feet back, to get your feet back that way. So that's what you're working towards, that sense of almost lifting yourself forward. You might get to a point where from here you can flick your hands in front and then walk or step your feet back. Just keep practicing the lifts. If you need to come back down, that's fine. And if you're getting tired, just take your feet out behind you to the side, stepping back into your planks. However you can get back now. Elbows in as you lower down. Inhale on the tops of the feet, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, jumping or stepping through. So a couple of symmetrical postures before we start winding things down. So drawing your feet in just a couple of inches, knees together, picking up underneath the knees. Now you need to start reclining to find that balance point where you're on your hips and your feet eventually come off the ground. So from there, and remember you can always revert to this position, especially if you feel it on the lower back. The challenge is to straighten your arms straight out in front, palms face each other, shoulders back, lift the chest, and then finally, the challenge is to start straightening those legs. But it might be that your lower legs are parallel to your arms, and eventually straight legs. So it's already 3 breaths, but we're doing a couple of these. Feeling your big toes pushing away more, so it feels like your feet are flat again on the wall in front of you. 4. Keep sitting up into as much as you can. This is Navasana, boat posture. And 5. So a little lift between each one if you're up for it. If you're not, just take a breath. Inhale, press. Exhale. Remember which way you crossed your ankles, because next time you're going to cross them the other way around. Straight legs. We're going to do 2 more of these. Find that steady breath. It's 1, 2, 3. Good. Keep breathing. 4, 5. Cross your ankles the other way around. Hands straight down by your hips. Inhale, push. Exhale, down. Last one. 1, 2. If you need to revert to holding here, that's fine. Just keep sitting up into it. 3. Keep breathing. 4, 5. Good. One more little lift. Cross ankles, knees into chest. Inhale, push. Exhale, down. So we're going to do a nice, gentle, symmetrical posture. This is to just work the hips a little bit more. So from your legs straight, draw your heels about 1/3 of the way in and get the little toe sides of your feet touching. So sit up nice and tall here. If you need to feel you support your knees, you can. This is about simultaneously letting the hips just imagine some space here. Now you can either have your hands down on the outside of your hips, sitting up nice and tall. This posture is loosely based on a posture called Supta Komasana, sleeping tortoise posture. And you think of a rounded shell of the tortoise. So as you either take your hands on the outside or you can work them on the inside, it's about drawing in the tummy and rounding down. So you might, it's quite nice to slide your hands underneath here, or maybe hands on the top, or pulling your elbows. Feel like your head is just sinking down into that gap. And we're just going to stay here a few breaths. Don't force anything. Try and just bring nice spatial awareness to your hips. It wants to feel like they're just drifting down towards the ground. Find that steady quality to the breath. Use those exhales just to almost feel like the head is sinking down and you feel your back nice and round. 3, 4, 5. From there, gently coming up. So you're probably pleased to know we're just going to take one more vinyasa. So crossing ankles, knees into chest, hands down. Inhale, push. Keep pushing. Imagine slightly tipping forward, even if nothing much is happening. Exhale down. And then last time, you could vary the way you take your feet out. Although ideally, if you can, even if you almost need to sort of think you're about to come up to standing and then step or jump your feet back from your plank, elbows in as you lower down. Inhale on the tops of the feet, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then coming through to sitting, and then coming all the way to lying down. So as we lie down on our backs, we prepare for a posture called Urdhva Dhanasana, although not necessarily doing the full posture today. But this is a continuation of that concept of upward facing dog, where you do what's called a back bend, or your spine is bending the opposite way to forwards. And the spine is just as capable of bending backwards as it is forwards. And we're fairly warmed up today after doing all those upward facing dogs. But we're going to take this nice and steady nevertheless, because this is quite challenging, especially to stay connected to the full deep breathing. So walking your feet in and getting a sense of your knees, which you might be able to catch sight of, are going upwards towards the ceiling. And again, as far as you can walk your feet in comfortably, feeling your feet evenly pressing down, it's important that your heels, which may want to feel like they're lifting off the mat, stay down on the mat. Trying also to get a sense that your feet are fairly wide to the width of your mat. They want to be closer to the edge of the mat than they are together, because you need this nice firm foundation. That's at one end, your feet pushing down. At the other end, your shoulders create this nice firm foundation. It wants to feel like your shoulders are almost rolling underneath, so your neck is completely free and off the ground. Now we're going to do this 3 times, and I'm going to give you some nice options. So this is fairly new to you. You're just going to start with the first option. And if you've done this before, then it will lead into the full posture. So inhale as you start lifting your hips up off the ground, and straight away you can do an assisted lift. So taking your hands to your waist and your thumbs just tucking underneath, you can actually help with this first lift. So just get a sense of the stability of the posture with your feet pushing into the ground, sense that you're really on your shoulders, you don't want to feel any discomfort in your neck. Hands can support your waist, and have this sense of inhaling, thinking about the hips lifting up towards the ceiling. Feet push down, keep breathing. You might get to a point where your elbows are almost directly underneath your hands and you get this maximum lift. So one more full deep breath here before we exhale, slowly coming down. You've got the option, as we do this 2 more times, of simply doing that again. If this is new to you and that's kind of enough of a stretch, then that's fine. If you want to go on progressing just a little bit further, then the second option would be hips go up but hands stay down. So you're not doing the assisted lift. Your hands either holding your ankles if you can reach, palms facing. So if you can reach your ankles. If you can't quite reach your ankles, you might be able to touch the back of the ankles with your middle finger or your index finger, straight arms. You might want to hold the edge of your mat. That gives you something to hold on to. Or a nice option, but you have to start lifting up, is to interlace your fingers and push down with straight arms. The main difference is then, let's have a go. See how you get on. Inhaling, lifting the hips up, but hands stay down this time. So you've got a couple of options where your hands could be. Inhale, hips up. So 1, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging to stay with this steadiness to the breath. 2, good. So press the feet into the ground wherever you are. Hips up. 3, feel that nice firm foundation of the shoulders supporting you. 4, 5, and exhale, slowly coming down. And then you can either repeat that option. The idea will be to move your feet further in. So Urdhva Dhanasana, the name of this posture, upside down bow posture, like the edge of a bow, to get a little bit more tension, feet come in. And the full completion of this posture, not that you have to try it if you haven't done it before, will be to have your hands back by your ears, elbows in, fingers pointing back down to your feet, and eventually a little bit of strength in your arms, which is why we practice all these vinyasas, would lift you onto the top of the head. And finally, you might be able to visualize that sort of upside down bow as you go all the way up. You've done it before, yeah? So if you want to have a go? Okay. If not, repeating one of the options and something to work towards. You want to show us? Yeah, good. So initially top of the head and eventually lifting up. If that feels just too far to go, keep lifting up if you can. Then 5 breaths. Or repeat one of the options, and over a period of time you can work to doing the full posture. Good. So wherever you are, so hips up. 2, elbows in, that's good. Keep breathing. 3, Strong legs, wherever you are, keep pushing the feet down. 4. One more full deep breath. 5. And coming down, tucking your head underneath. Good. And everybody coming down. And as you come down out of this posture, nice release is to gently draw your knees into your chest and just gently give yourselves a little bit of a hug. Moving from side to side and backwards and forwards. And just give a little bit of a roll around on the lower back just to take any possible tension out. And then you can either rock up to sitting if you get a little bit of momentum, or you can simply just go down to one side if you want to take it easier and support yourselves as you come up to sitting. And after doing that preparation, or eventually that back bend, it's nice to do a nice gentle forward bend. So for this forward bend, we've already done a seated forward bend, you might want to have your feet a little bit further apart. You might want to bend your knees a bit more because you don't really want to feel this on your hamstrings. This is a bit more about stretching out your back. So you could bend the knees, maybe rather than sometimes pulling onto your feet and sort of pulling yourself forward, hands just down by your sides, even upturned is quite nice, holding onto your elbows underneath your bent knees. Inhale, lift the chest. And a little bit like you could do the initial lift of the chest, but we did that Kurmasana posture, that curving down. It's quite nice just to curve down and just release the head. So whatever feels appropriate, just for a few extra breaths to do that nice counter stretch to that back bend. So you just want to feel almost like you're just hanging there. If it feels too much on the hamstrings, just back off a little bit. You want to feel this nice sense of release. So the spine now is just kind of finding that neutral position and that nice counter stretch from the back bend. Good. A couple of breaths. And then gently coming up. So our last seated posture is how we started right at the beginning, and that's crossing our legs, just nice, easy cross-legged. One of the reasons of doing this type of yoga over a period of time is just to get a little bit more rotation in the hips to enable you to sit more comfortably, either sitting cross-legged like this. At some point in the future, it's about sitting in what you call either half lotus or eventually full lotus. So we're actually going to do this 2 times, even though it doesn't look like an obviously asymmetrical posture. It doesn't look like you're kind of doing one side of a posture, but either crossing right over left could mean crossing left over right. So you're going to change it in a few breaths, but whatever feels comfortable for you to sit, either on a block, cross leg, but this time we take the back of the hands on the knees and we just make a nice firm connection with the pads of the thumb and the index finger and remaining 3 fingers pointing down towards the ground. It's almost like we're sliding our hands up on the knees and lifting the chest. And finally drawing the chin down, gently drawn down. Don't want to feel like it's overly stretching out the back of the neck. But make sure you sit up nice and tall. And 5 full deep breaths here. So it's appropriate to even start lengthening the inhalations and exhalations a little bit. So that's 1 already. So at each inhalation, followed by a nice long exhalation, is 2. 3, keep breathing. 4, 5. Now we're just going to briefly pause just to balance out that posture. So whichever way you're sitting cross-legged, see what it feels like. And it might feel a little bit different to sit the other way cross-legged. And from there, if you wanted to go further, you might be sitting in half lotus with the other foot coming up on cross. Don't force anything, just initially sitting cross-legged. Even sitting cross-legged, you might feel this is a little bit more comfortable, and over a period of time with this nice release to the hips, replacing the hands. Same gesture with the thumbs and the index finger, sitting up nice and tall, lift the chest, and then gently just draw the gaze down towards some place just off the front of your mat between your knees. And we keep breathing. So another 5 breaths will take us up to 10. So that's 6. Full inhalation. Full exhalation. 7, 8, 9. One more full deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. 10. So gently lifting the gaze. So very slowly we're moving to our final posture. Posture you've all been waiting for is Shavasana, relaxation. If you want to put something on just to maintain a little bit of that nice heat you've built up, you're welcome to grab a jumper or jacket, or there's some blankets at the front here. You want to try and keep that nice heat you've built up, and then when you're ready, we're lying down on our backs again. This time, taking your feet wide, so your heels want to be pretty much on the edge of your mat, and your feet just flop out to the side as you support yourselves. And your hands want to be in about 45 degrees away with the palms up, and then gently putting your head down on the mat. Now this posture, Shavasana, is just as important as all the other postures we've done this afternoon, but there's a couple of differences. So the first difference is you're going to close your eyes. The second difference is let go of the full deep breathing that we talked about. Just let the body go back to breathing itself. So you're still going to keep the face relaxed and the mouth gently closed, but simply let the body breathe as you inhale and exhale, however feels appropriate. And when we talked about controlling the breath at the beginning, that was also done in conjunction with an awareness to our abdomen, trying to keep that area still. You can let that go now. So it might be that you just bring some awareness to your tummy and just feel your tummy almost rise and fall as you breathe now. So that area is completely soft. And we indeed want to bring softness to the whole body. So you might just bring awareness as we do a little body scan to your head, feeling the back of the head gently on the mat. Bring awareness to the muscles in the face. Feel your forehead nice and soft and the cheekbones relaxing. Feel the eyes just softly closed and the lips gently creating that seal to carry on breathing. Whatever feels appropriate, in through the nose and out through the nose. Feel your shoulders just melting into the ground. Feel your neck completely free. You can take that awareness down your arms to make sure that your elbows just feel like they're softly just sinking into the ground. Imagine space between the wrists and the finger joints. And then from the neck you can take that awareness down your spine. Imagine the vertebrae of the spine just settling into alignment, all the way down to your hips. Imagine your hips just melting, space in the hip joints, traveling down through the knees to the ankles and the toes. And you can just repeat that body scan if you like a couple of times, just making sure, just checking every single part of the body is relaxed, feels nice and spacious and open. And if you feel any particular areas of tension, just take a little bit of your awareness there, bring some space. So we move towards this sensation of feeling like we're floating in space, just completely weightless, just drifting. So the idea in Shavasana is to completely let go of the physical body, completely relax. When we move through this physical practice, we energize parts of the body, this sense of the abdomen nice and still, and we energize the muscles of the arms and the legs to physically move us through. But now the opposite is true, so completely let all of that go. And to balance up this stillness of the physical body, bring your awareness back into towards the breath. Try and keep your attention still and quiet for these last few moments in Shavasana. So the mind is doing nothing more than simply staying tuned in to the sensation of the body and that sensation of breath. See if you can keep your attention on the inhalations and the exhalations. And we said at the beginning, it might be this sensation that occasionally your mind starts to wander a little. And if you get that feeling, see if you can, just for these next few moments, patiently keep bringing your awareness back towards the breath. So the physical body is still and quiet, and the mind is still and quiet. So gently starting to move your fingers and your toes. Just give them a little bit of movement. And then when you're ready, slowly taking your arms up and over, so along the length of the ground. You can take your straight arms behind you and just have a nice inhale there, stretching from the tips of your fingers all the way down to your toes. Just pause there for a few moments. And then gently just starting to draw your right knee into your chest. And gently just giving yourself just a little hug with that right knee gently drawing in. And then the left knee can draw in slightly. And then reaching your arms around, you can gently draw both knees into your chest and slowly, slowly start to move from side to side and backwards and forwards. So a little bit of movement on the lower back just to reawaken the spine. And then we're going to pause there as we slowly move onto the right side for a couple of breaths. So as you slowly move onto your right side, pause there in that nice curled up position, let go again. And you can take this as an opportunity, if you haven't already done so, just to open up your eyes and get used to your bearings. And then slowly supporting yourselves as you come up to sitting, just taking as much time as you need. So just finding a nice, easy, comfortable seated position just at the front of your mat. Now you can put your hands in prayer position, gently pressing the palms together. Inhale here. And then just exhale, just gently surrendering, just taking the hands down. Release the head slowly. And then inhale, coming up to sitting. Namaste. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.